Hello, world. Here in the ongoing story of Donald Trump, Elon Musk, who's outright, outright directly paying voters. He's buying votes directly, not supporting the campaign. Just going to give him money to vote. I that's not what this video is about. But yeah, just as a backdrop, in that race. Another judge race. Yeah. Most of which, the biggest part of the help from this one billionaire, Elon Musk, is gone to the conservative justice. And he's buying votes. He's directly buying votes. And the courts have said, oh, that's okay. The last time I heard about anything like that, it was in the bad old days in Mexico, directly paying people who kept Mexico in really bad shape for a long time. And it's happening here. Oh boy. But here with this lovely lady we have who who's brilliant and fights so hard for our for our country. And just hoping that people will listen to her. So let's give a little bit of a listen to one of the greatest voices for freedom and democracy right now.
Fired anyone for this debacle, which is astonishing. He did confess to NBC News.
She's talking about the debacle where they had an insecure discussion of war plans and his administration, and allowed in a journalist into the chat. And of course, those things. You ever messed with Zoom or any of those things, they're not that secure no matter what you do to it. And yeah, that's where our war plans are now being made. And now let's listen to how her take on this.
News in a new interview that he sees this as a, quote, glitch. A glitch. He said this scandal has been, quote, the only glitch in 2 months. This is kind of emerging as his take on this scandal. He told reporters yesterday, they've made a big deal out of this because we've had 2 perfect months. Essentially saying that this scandal with all of his senior appointees, including his White House chief of staff, all discussing these forthcoming battle plans over Signal in a group text that they didn't notice included a journalist. He thinks this is all a hoax. This is now, he's used the phrase witch hunt. This has all been ginned up as if it's something bad. They're trying to make it look bad because he's otherwise had 2 perfect months. This is the only thing that even looks bad. Everything else has been. And I will just say, between you and me, you have been alive for these past 2 months. And you have experienced what the first 2 months of this Trump term have been like. Do you think that Trump is right, that it's all been totally perfect?
Yeah, totally perfect. Yeah, he was gonna bring down egg prices day one. He lies. He lies all the time. And yeah, perfect month. Wow. Stock market's not doing that well. People are demonstrating in the streets over this tearing up of the government that serves we the people. And even veterans, wants to put them on a shoestring And meanwhile, the biggest waste is billionaires. Really, to be honest, where's the waste? If they're not paying enough to keep our kids from being hungry and our our populace from dying unnecessarily from disease, and not supporting our veterans, everything like that, shoestring. But meanwhile, billionaires are, mm, they're feeling no pain, so they don't care. They have enough money to keep a family going for thousands of years and with full benefits. But there's no waste there, no power grab going on. Yeah, yeah, it was a long history of that. But now it's just outrageous. They're taking off the masks and stepping right up and saying, "Yeah, yeah, we're gonna buy votes. Just try and stop us." Well, let's hope that American people are smarter than blue and put a check on this would-be dictator. Let's hear a little more. Wonderful lady.
Perfect. This has been the only glitch. I mean, just, back of the envelope scratching here. It was a week or so after he was sworn in, January 29th, a jet carrying 64 people hit an Army helicopter above the Potomac River outside Reagan National Airport in D.C. Everybody on both aircraft killed. The day before that collision, he had offered air traffic controllers all across the country a somewhat threatening buyout, trying to basically beg them to leave government service. Less than a week later, Trump reversed course. Oh, actually, no, maybe that's a bad idea. Air traffic controllers, please don't leave. That same week was when we started to get the headlines about the kids who Trump's top campaign donor, Elon Musk, had brought in to his new agency to work with him to destroy the federal government. Turns out one DOJ staffer actually had to resign when it came out that he had a since-deleted social media account in which he had advocated for loud and proud racism and racial human breeding tactics through eugenics. They soon hired him back. Another DOJ staffer had been previously fired from a cybersecurity firm for leaking company secrets. He also worked at a startup that hired convicted hackers. He went by the online moniker Big Balls. We would later learn that Trump and Elon Musk, in their infinite wisdom, specifically gave Big Balls, who again had been fired from a previous job at a cybersecurity firm for leaking company secrets. Trump and Musk gave that specific kid access to the systems at the top U.S. cybersecurity agency. Great choice. Then Trump fired the staff of the nation's nuclear security agency, the people who oversee the nation's nuclear weapons stockpile. Then Trump scrambled to unfire all of those nuclear safety workers because, oops, but in many cases, they couldn't figure out how to reach them because in their infinite wisdom, they forgot to collect contact information from those nuclear security workers before cutting them all off from their government email accounts. This includes people with Q-level security clearances who are cleared for access to our nation's top nuclear secrets. Those are great folks to lose track of and to fire for no cause. Trump then fired people at the CDC in charge of tracking the ongoing bird flu outbreak. That turned out to be a mistake as well. They then tried to hire all those people back, but didn't get them all back. Trump then instituted not only firings, but a hiring freeze that applied to, among other things, the national parks. Why is it particularly bad to do that at the national parks? Well, among other things, the national parks every year have to hire a whole new cast of employees for seasonal employment because the national parks have greatly increased visitors during vacation season. Hiring freeze isn't going to work at the national parks, right? You have to hire lots of new people every year. So they did that, and then oops, turns out they realized they couldn't do that. Turns out it would be wildly dangerous to radically understaff American national parks. Who knew? So they had to reverse that too. Then a few days after that reversal, we saw them again scrambling to rehire people they had fired from the FDA this time.
How do you know when it's time to end a relationship or when to really fight for it to see if there's something there?
I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. That
Headline. FDA scrambles to rehire entire teams overseeing medical devices after Doge fired them all, saying their terminations are, quote, rescinded effective immediately.
Yeah, this was Trump's perfect few months. Sounds like they don't know what they're doing, right? Yeah, and but beyond that total incompetence, we see unmistakable greed coming from the inner mind communication channel, which emphasizes empathy and personal growth and virtue. Yeah, forms of it, objective, creative, passionate. That total lack of that. Is there a new word we need here? Like pathetic, stupid. It's a disease. They're addicted, Rice talks. They're addicted to their wealth and their power. Understand that we have known for a long time that power corrupts. And that's why we had a balance of powers set up. And now those balances are not there. The president was given too many powers to begin with. Well, they were coming from a king, so any improvement there, I guess, was all right with them, the founding fathers. But now it's like ridiculous, and we have the Supreme Court um, supporting a king, basically. They want to turn Trump into a king. And that's because they had appointed justices. Nothing stopped the Republican Party from appointing justices. You know, the excuse with Obama appointing some of them toward the end of his term. Yeah, but when their guy was toward the end of a term, that no, no, we won't. No, we're not going to block that appointment. You know that's got to go through. They're very aggressive, and they don't care about you. Price you pay for eggs. They don't care. They want to dismantle and have tried to dismantle Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid for decades. They don't even care about the veterans. You know, there were all kinds of good things for veterans that Democrats. Well, that didn't happen. Not enough. Always having to compromise. Republican Party. And now the Republican Party has gone ape bananas. And still, you see people supporting that party. You know, voter suppression. Isn't this a democracy? Shouldn't we make it easier for people to vote? You know, they in the areas where the Republicans thought the Democrats going to uh, help have an ability to elect a Congress, they made sure that the districts were redrawn so that those likely Democrat voters would be in other uh, congressional districts where they were the minority. And also in those districts where they knew that there was going to be votes coming in for Democrats. Another tactic they had was to make sure that there wasn't enough voting sites. Listen, that is not of the people, for the people, and by the people. That's of the rich, for the rich, and by the rich. So they've been headed this way all this time, and now it's come to a final head where the insanity oligarchy is gone way past all of the checks and balances of government. There's no checks or balances present. He's guilty of all kinds of crimes that you would have been put away for, but he gets forgiveness. He can forgive himself. And so the court stalled and stalled, knowing that he was guilty. That's the Supreme Court, SCOTUS. Stalled and stalled so that he could, hey, maybe we can get him elected and he can forgive himself. Yeah, so that's what we're dealing with. So right now, we have to make sure that we organize, get as many Democrats elected as possible. Republican Party is no longer the party of Lincoln. It's left that far behind. Now, it's almost completely antithetical spirit of Abraham Lincoln. Yeah, even to the point that they are the more racist party. Hear them say they're not. They'll always, pick out someone that they can dupe into supporting the wealthy and proclaim loudly that here is a minority person supporting us. Yeah, they do that. But for the vast majority of people in those minority groups, where's the power? How many women do you see in government? Are they any? They really, really, really knuckled down on making sure minorities, and they're not even a minority, women outnumber men. They still repressing the vote. They ever ruse. And other minorities get it, you know. But I'm telling you, they can't stop the vote and will of the people. We stand firm. We support one another and stand together. Quit being fooled by perhaps the biggest fool that's ever been president in the country. We were headed in a better way. FDR, big part of that. No Social Security before. He helped that get passed, and Social Security, when it came into play, there were no longer the great numbers of elderly people dying homeless, and it was from, this is also an earned benefit, which of course Republicans misnomered as entitlements. The people who are entitled are the greedy rich. Some rich people are not so foolish, but many are, and it's I have to note that the three wealthiest people in the world were backing Trump. They were willing to put everybody on a shoestring diet, you know, starvation situation, and hand all of that productivity to the extremely wealthy. You need government to stand up and not support that. If they do support that, you've got to turn out to vote. And so it's not enough to get in the streets. You need to get in the streets, but it's not enough to do that. And boycotts, go ahead. Um, but that sort of thing in the past has not been enough. Remember the 99%? It didn't turn into votes. So talk to your neighbors, get them to understand what real empathy is and why it's necessary in democracy. Empathy means you think about the other guy, everybody. You think about the government that is of the people, for the people, and by the people, and not of the rich, for the rich, and by the rich. And that's real empathy. And if you want to consider saving money or streamlining things, that's fine. But you don't leave out helping those who are desperate in need, veterans on the street, children hungry in the school. They want to cut everything. But it's not empathetic for a government by these conservatives who the Democrats have cowed to for way too long. And that, the earnings of the super wealthy are skyrocketing all the time for decades now. And your wages going down. You can't get your kid into college. There's so many things that you can't do. You wanted a change in government. That was a great idea. But listen, you should have backed Bernie. You should have went over into the Democratic Party and voted for Bernie, and then stuck with him when it came to the general election. Bernie Sanders is you, and AOC, she's for you. And they have constantly tried to vilify Democrats, constantly. And it's not correct. It's not, it's not an empathetic way to go. Now, you can't have empathy with greed and abuse of power. Can't. You can have empathy for the people doing that, but but you have to stand up against them. And you have to make sure that when they do things like that, you don't let them hold office. You don't. The 14th Amendment, Section 3, makes Trump illegitimate. There he is still elected because voters didn't pay attention and the Supreme Court was bought. Yeah, pretty much. So, what does that Section 3 say? Well, it was put in, after the Civil War. And there was an insurgency by people trying to destroy the nation, break it up, keep slaves. So, hey, there was a law put into place that said if somebody's been guilty of this insurgency, meaning any insurgency, that's the law doesn't just apply to Confederates in the Civil War. It was a law saying if you are involved in an attempt to take over the government by force, insurgency, or rebellion against the government, traitorous act, you cannot hold office unless, and there's where the forgiveness comes in, probably because of the war, trying to mend things. But you needed, I believe it was 2/3 majority vote in the House and the Senate in order to hold office. And you got to prove that Brett. So this is very important. I want you to understand all this backdrop. There's a lot of people who are listening to this lovely lady don't understand, the full picture uh, that she's building on. She can't go in one video and tell you all the history and everything, and up to the present moment. So she's talking about things that are current, but it's necessary to understand what happened before. How did we get here? And by the way, go to Robert Reich's website and his YouTube channel. He has a lot to say, and it's right on target. And try to follow those rallies of AOC. And Robert Reich. Yeah, it's very important just to understand. There's been also in Texas, there's been another rally, and the vice president, picked by Kamala Harris, um, uh, on stage there with AOC, I believe it was. Yeah, AOC in Texas, big rally, a lot of people. And you don't have to know everything about government, and I don't, in order to understand that things aren't right and that we need to support the Democrats. Need to get in the primaries so that we're picking brave Democrats who'll stand up against oligarchy. There's a difference. So, and don't neglect to vote, because even if you see your choice is the lesser of evils, you don't vote. You've helped the greater of evils in your mind to win. So you voted. You voted by not voting. Let that sink in. So, yeah, I don't know everything. I'm an old geezer and memories slipping away. But this young lady's quite sharp, and I don't think she ever forgets anything. Let's hear what she has to say on this recent scandal.
By this point, we're about a month in to the perfect 2 months. It was February 22nd, just about exactly a month in, when Elon Musk sent his first "What did you do last week?" email. He demanded that all federal employees email his Doge teenagers a list of what they got done that week, or else it would be cause for immediate firing. That threat then promptly was deflated. Within 24 hours, the leaders of multiple agencies in the government, people in Trump's cabinet like Tulsi Gabbard say, told their workers in their agencies explicitly don't reply to Elon's email. Womp womp. At that point, Elon Musk had a running list of all the massive and spectacular savings he and his kids at Doge had found by cutting out supposed fraud and waste from the federal government. They claimed to have found billions of dollars in fraud. It was all on their website for you to see. But then February 25th, the New York Times reported that the 5 largest items on that list had just quietly disappeared because it turns out they hadn't actually saved all that money. They'd just done all the math wrong. Day after the rug was pulled out from under Doge on that, they had to erase another big cut from their list. Doge claimed they had found $2 billion of waste and fraud to cut out from VA. Turns out a lot of that money was for stuff like, medical services for veterans, cancer programs for veterans with cancer, burial services for veterans who die. Boy, that really does sound wasteful, right? So yeah, again, oops, they had to reverse course on that. Reinstate some of that stuff. Saturday after that was March 1st. We learned another obvious but alarming side effect to all of Trump and Musk's firings through the federal government. CNN reported that U.S. intelligence showed that Russia and China were rushing to take advantage of the moment and working hard to recruit as many disgruntled workers as intelligence assets as they could get. You tired of all the winning yet? You tired of all the perfection? The very next day, Sunday, March 2nd, the Dow started its trip off the cliff after.
Yeah, you remember that? There'll be so much winning. You'll get tired of winning. Well, you've been losing. So I hope you'll understand that. But please subscribe to my channel. Well, my channel. There's a team. Yeah, our channel, and do something. Do something for democracy. And put in the comments. Why should you comment? So that your voice can be heard. Do you have a situation in which these cuts have impacted your life? Make that comment. Get your voice out there and help this channel to become big enough to reach more people with your comments, and share the video if you like it. And it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe. Got a new subscribe button, the lower right there. Anyway, so let's listen to a little more of Dear Rachel.
After Trump said he was going to go through with his tariffs on our closest trading partners, like Mexico and Canada and also China. The next day, you could watch live on the Fox News channel as the stock market tumbled down and down and down while Trump doubled down, down, down on his tariffs.
Oh, by the way, the old mind is finally, a little slow. When you're old, you're a little slow. It was Bernie Sanders and AOC at those rallies. I would have loved to see Robert Reich there too, but wishful thinking. He's doing a great job on his channel. He should have joined them, I think. Put it in the comments. You think Robert Reich should have joined AOC and Bernie Sanders? I think so. Anyway, continuing on with Dear Rachel Maddow.
Since then, we've seen industry after industry come forward to say just how much the tariffs have been just slaying them economically. But Trump is plowing ahead. A week after tanking the stock market with that incipient trade war, Trump pulled yet another reversal. Since taking office, he's been insisting on using military aircraft for deportations, been making a huge deal about these deportations, deporting migrants, many of whom we now know had no criminal history whatsoever. But he wanted to make a big deal out of the fact that he was using military aircraft to send them where? To Guantanamo. Very transparent stunt to get footage like this to use for propaganda purposes. It was also unbelievably eye-wateringly expensive. So quietly on March 5th, they stopped using the military aircraft. And a week later, they stopped using Guantanamo. They returned everybody they'd been holding there back stateside. Because they'd already got all their propaganda films made. Don't tell anybody, we're just not doing that anymore. Along the way, in their hunt to rid everything in the federal government of diversity, equity, inclusion, they purged a photo of the plane that dropped the atomic bomb on Japan from a Defense Department database. We believe that's because the plane, the Enola Gay, has the word gay in its name. So obviously just having pictures of that plane anywhere is going to make everybody gay. Look what it did to me. The next week, people still employed by the FDA and ordered back to the office told reporters they had returned to find offices that could not fit them, with broken equipment and not enough chairs for people to sit in. Last week, Trump released the JFK assassination files, unredacted, including 400 unredacted Social Security numbers and birth dates and birthplaces. Trump managed, among other things, to dox his own lawyer, who only found out Trump had done it when a reporter called to ask him about it. Also last week, the New York Times was first to report that Elon Musk was about to get, the very next morning, a top secret briefing for the U.S. military plan for any war that might break out with China.
Oh, Lord.
After he says he saw that report, Trump, quote, contacted White House Chief of Staff and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to ask them, hey, what's this briefing you're doing for Elon? That sounds like a big deal. He learned about it in the New York Times, he says. And so then they called it off.
Please sign the petition and urge Congress to make assault rifles illegal for civilians.
Yeah,
There's no
please
practical
do that.
application in civilized society for assault rifles.
Stand up for
We need your
this.
help. Please tell Congress to outlaw them now. Thank you.
Yeah.
And briefly, that was a, stop everything, what the heck is going on news, right? The president's top campaign donor, with all of his business ties to China and his multi-billion-dollar debts to the Chinese, getting a briefing on the U.S. military plans for going to war with China. But, just to show you how these first 2 months of the Trump term is going, here's the news from the very next day. After Trump announced there would be no such Elon Musk China war plan briefing, this is the Washington Post, Saturday, March 22nd, just 4 days ago.
He's not even elected. Come on.
Tax revenue could drop by 10% amid turmoil at IRS. Staff cuts and disruptions
even have
related
a
to
real
Doge
job.
have officials bracing for a sharp loss of revenue for the U.S. government. The prediction officials say is directly tied to changing taxpayer behavior and President Trump's rapid demolition of parts of the IRS. Rapid demolition. Neat. Seems like Doge, if those predictions seem to be borne out at IRS, will have succeeded in robbing the United States government of $500 billion in revenue it would have otherwise received because, again, in their infinite wisdom, they have decided to destroy the IRS.
Yeah. The last time Trump was in office, the debt went way up. And now wow. When you deprive the government of money, the debt goes up crazy, just crazy, because you can't pay on it. You lose good faith. You lose good faith with the other nations. Well, that's all torn to shreds anyway, because he's threatened our allies and cozied up to Putin. Real patriot, this Trump. Real patriot. No. Generals have said he's a fascist to the core. Yeah, I think so. I think so. Here we go. Let's go, Rachel.
Which collects money to fund the government. Everybody who's ever run a business knows that the most efficient thing you can do in getting your bottom line straight of your business is to make sure you no longer have the capacity to earn any money. Right? It's been perfect. These 2 months have been, other than this little glitch with the giant group text about...
Okay. I gotta leave a little time for you to go directly to this side and hear her entire presentation. So I'm going to leave a link so that you can see the entire presentation by Rachel Maddow. And please like and subscribe to MSNBC. Okay. Um, I've done a little more than just a clip here, and I apologize to MSNBC for that. She's just so wonderful, and she says so many wonderful things. But she's sharp as a tack, and you know it's you got to keep up when you're listening to her, and sometimes it's well, she's just so knowledgeable and so in touch with the facts. I hope you know. I hope she it helps her keep her job too. So go in and sign up. Subscribe to the MSNBC channel. Okay. And I'm going to leave a link so that you can hear her wrap up at the end. And listen uninterruptedly to this brilliant, brilliant young lady. Okay. Now, from the inner mind communication perspective, all of this is an attack on empathy uh, in government and in our private lives. The use of empathy in your introspection is something we talk about with inner mind communication. Practice that empathy. Practice it. Um, and we talk about how to do that. There's probably other ways to do that too. Um, so do that. Look deep within inside. Be reflective. Reflect on your life. Reflect on how things are. And empower your empathy with objectivity, creativity, looking at things from different perspectives, artful approach, and passionate is a way to help people feel safe to express their deepest needs. So let's support empathy within ourselves, within our communities, and in politics. It needs to be in all of those places, and not just in your inner mind, but that's where it starts. And when you act in an empathetic way in your life, that educate and you receive empathy from others, that builds your own inner dialogues with empathy. So, thank you, Rachel Maddow, for standing up for our country. You are a wonderful, wonderful young lady, and I hope I'm talking to her. She'll probably never see this, but you know, please, please go on to her MSNBC and go. I will provide a link for this video presentation by Rachel, and give her some good comments. Okay, and the same for this channel, if you would. Um, until next time, remember, you're not just in a world of wonder. You're part of it. You are wonderful, no matter who you are, what you've done, or where you've been. You're still wonderful. The story of your life is interesting, no matter what it was. And at a distance, enjoyable like a movie. But in any movie, the hero of love makes it better. So, so stand up, you know, just a little bit. It's the hero of love. When you hear this, see this video, stand up, and you just don't know how widely um, your influence can go. If you stand up for empathy and virtues attached, um, and just two people hear what you've got to say and are motivated to do the same. Um, those two people can inspire four people, and four people, eight people, and pretty soon you're reaching the thousands, millions. So, and all from a small splash that you can make. Story of your life. So, have at it, hero, and be sure and vote. Till next time.